Hello, everyone. My name is Kirk Bachman, and welcome back to The Ultimate Dish. Today, we have an extraordinary guest, Daniela Peregrina, a 53-year-old plant-based culinary student right here at Auguste Escoffier School of Culinary Arts. Born in the U.S. and raised in Mexico by a Serbian mom and a Mexican father. Daniela's diverse background has shaped her deep connection to food, blending flavors from different worlds. Recently, she showcased her talent, and I mean talent, on MasterChef Generations, Season 14, where she competed as part of Team Gen X, taking a bold step towards realizing her lifelong dream of becoming a chef. But that's not all. Daniela is a traveler at heart, and through her global adventures, she has explored authentic local flavors that inspire her culinary creations. Her passion, taking recipes from across the world and transforming them into innovative plant-based dishes, bringing her love of food, her plant-forward philosophy together in a delicious harmony. And as an empty nester, Daniela decided to follow her heart and dive into the world of food, and she hasn't looked back since. Today, she's here to share her inspiring journey, her passion for plant-based cooking, and what it means to live a life dedicated to flavor and creativity. So get ready. This conversation is sure to be a feast for the senses. And there she is. Good morning. Good morning for me and you, I think. How are you?
Yes. Good morning, Chef Kirk. Doing well. It is a bit early and kind of cloudy here. So hopefully there's enough light.
And tell our guests, our students, and everyone who's listening, where's here? You're in California right now, right?
I'm in what would be called Central California. We're on the northern tip of Southern California. So it's a little small community in the most southern part of the Southern Sierras. That was a lot of southerns. And it's a small, it's a town / city, and it's beautiful. It's called Tehachapi, California. Everybody knows that I'm there since the show. So
I love it. I love it. What's the largest town that we would recognize or city that we would recognize to you?
So we are 45 minutes from Bakersfield.
Got it. Got it. Now I've got the visual. Okay. Okay. Very good. How are you feeling today?
Doing well. Thank you, Chef. And I'm excited to be here. I was telling you, you know what, there are all these amazing bios that I was reading about the people on the podcast. And I just started listening to the podcast recently. I didn't even know we had a podcast. So I'm glad that I started listening to it, and it's been great.
I hope our producer is taking notes there. You didn't know that we had a podcast, but you're here because you're an amazing person. I love it. You know, it's really, it's special for me. We haven't had that many students, but we've had a fair amount of students over the years on the show. And I'm super, super excited. Your energy is infectious. We'll get to all of that. But I have to tell you, your social media presence is insane. It is authentic. It is transparent. It's real. It's fun. There's another reel. I don't want to pull it open right now, but the beautiful aprons. Can you talk about that a little bit? It's one of the reels on your Insta.
Oh, yes. The three aprons that I wear. So I have 3 aprons that I switch in between. Of course, the Auguste Escoffier apron that I use when I do my schoolwork. That's the most recent apron. So going in order of appearance, that is the most recent. And then the previous apron, which was the MasterChef apron that I wore for my duration on the show. And it's the apron that I use whenever I do any type of community service or I go out and to do events. One of the things that I did say about that apron is that I will wear it only when there is a cause attached to it. If I can help a community-based food bank or something, it's a very special apron, but also a very powerful tool to be able to open doors, to be able to do that. So I'm very honored to have received that one. And the first apron was the Believe apron with the dragonfly. That apron is an apron that I went into a local bakery one day, and it's a German bakery here in town, a very, very good bakery. People come from all around to visit it. And I went into the bakery, and there was this woman wearing an apron that said Believe, and it had this big dragonfly, and it was tie-dye. The 3 things that I love, and it's purple. So I said, oh my gosh, your apron is gorgeous. And she takes off the apron, gives it to me, and said, I'm going to give this to you because I'm being told that you need a sense of belief. You need to believe in your dreams. You need to believe in something. So here's this apron. I don't know her name, but I've worn it, and I wore it during my audition taping for MasterChef. So while I was doing my videos at home, and so they're special in every way. One represents, you have to believe. You have to do what you want to do. Your dreams are valid. The other one represents the dream coming true, and the Escoffier is the possibilities of all the dreams that are to come.
Oh, I just love it. When I read about the aprons and was going through the script, I thought to myself, and I don't know if you have aspirations to open up your own restaurant, but imagine a restaurant called Three Aprons. There you go, right there. I'm going to sell you that trademark, okay? Isn't that because
I love that.
A name has to have a purpose, right? So I love that you referred to one of the aprons as a tool, right? As a tool to connect to your community, and absolutely love that. So you should write that down. Three Aprons. That's going to be your restaurant, right?
I will keep that in mind, Kirk. And I don't know if I'm going to open up a restaurant at this stage in my life. It's a bit, as you know, the restaurant industry is very demanding. I think that more like, I want to keep it small, very small, maybe a little cafe.
I could see you doing a cafe called Three Aprons. I absolutely love it. I'm not surprised that you were a theater kid, by the way, when I see your performances on social media. But can you tell us a little bit about that? Who was the younger Daniela?
So my theater days started actually in college in Mexico at the University of the Americas. Growing up, I was a really, really shy girl. I was very quiet. I was the one in the back of the room. I never said anything. So when I went off to college, I was dating someone, and he decided that he wanted to go to theater to join the theater company. And I said, okay, if I want to spend time with him, but I can't do theater. I'm going to break down. I'm so nervous. I can't do this. So it was a double dip. It was like, okay, I want to spend time with him, but at the same time, I want to also open up and become a little less shy. So it started there. And then I didn't do theater for years and years up until about 15 years ago. I had the opportunity at a local community theater. They had a part that was open for a 10-minute play. And the author of the 10-minute play reached out. It's a good friend of mine. And she said, I have this part and it's perfect for you. It's a Latina mom with 2 daughters. And I said, I can't do theater. That was years ago. That was college. And she goes, please, can you do it? And unbeknownst to me at the time, I met who is now my fiance, the person that is now my fiance. So there's a story behind that.
It's fate. It's fate. Yeah.
It was fate, and we were on stage together. At the time, I was married to my son's dad, and we're the best of friends. Nothing bad happened. Everything ended as it needed to end when it ended. And then later on, Rick, who is my fiance, and I reconnected and started to date, and the rest is history. So we've been together for 11 years now.
I love that. What's a 10-minute play? I love that. That's kind of my attention span right there. 10-minute play.
10-minute play. So it's like a TikTok play, right? It's like a TikTok recipe. So they do a playwrights festival, and they have local playwrights. Anybody who wants to submit a play submits a play. So they choose about, I want to say anywhere between 6 to 8 plays. And the audience gets to watch these little segments,
so series of them. Okay.
It's a series of them. So think of it as, just random plays. Some are comedies, some are dramas, some are just, very avant-garde. So you get to vote at the end of the evening for your favorite playwright, the writing. And it's mostly black box, and black box is when you don't have a big set. You have mostly black boxes that are painted. The set is painted black, and you use some props, but it's not a full-on stage. So there's a lot of movement, which keeps you, awake for the next play, and then you get to vote, which is your favorite play after the 2 weekends that they are showing. And then they give an award, which is called the Golden Quill, then the Silver Quill, and of course the Bronze Quill.
That's amazing. See, we're always learning. I had no idea. That is so super cool. I love that. I love that. So let's talk about food a little bit and what your connection with cuisine um, was like growing up. Sort of a Serbian, Mexican, United States background. Tell me a little bit about what it was like growing up. Sounds like lots of flavors.
There was a lot of flavors, a lot of music, a lot of people. So I mostly grew up, my early years are around the Serbian and Bosnian cuisine because my grandmother was Bosnian. So my grandparents put on these big parties. They were mostly faith-based. They were Orthodox. So in the Orthodox Serbian religion, there is a festivity for, almost every month there was something going on. So my grandmother would cook these extraordinary meals for people that would be coming and going. And she would take days. Everything was made from scratch. I mean, she ground her own nuts for the cake. She made baklava. She made stuffed cabbage that she had brined the cabbage months before, for the event. So, food was very important in my family. And you walked into my grandmother's home and you didn't leave ever hungry. You always left, and she kept bringing food out. We call it, meze. You keep eating and eating and eating. So, and my mother is also an extraordinary cook. She would make fresh bread every single day. And I grew up here in the States up until the age of 7. And then, my parents decided to move to Mexico, but my mother would send us lunches made with homemade bread. It'd be a bologna sandwich, but it'd be homemade bread. And I always thought my lunches were so boring because I'd look at the kid next to me and go, "Hey, you want to trade?"
I love that story. It sort of connects. I grew up in a European family in Chicago, and my family's bakery, fourth generation cook, and the same thing. My lunches were different, right? Fresh products, right? That looked different than everyone else around me who had, Wonder Bread, Hunt Snack Pack, and all of that. But I did not appreciate it then like I do now. And I'm sure you appreciate it now because it's helped define who you are and how you approach food, right?
Absolutely. And thanks, Mom, because it really was an experience that at that age I did not understand. And I unfortunately did the same thing to my son, or fortunately did the same thing.
Fortunately.
So now he has a family and he appreciates it. But he would say, why can't I have a Lunchables? It's so boring.
No, well, kids these days, I have 4 kids and I'm taking your picture. They like to be like everybody else. But before we get flavors and stuff, one of the episodes I was watching, Aaron Sanchez was on, and I just loved watching your emotions, almost your deep respect for Aaron, for Chef Sanchez, right? And what was that dish? It was so colorful, and the judges loved it, right? And you roasted the chili versus frying, and I remember they all commented on that. Do you remember what that dish was?
Yes, that's the dish that earned me the apron, and it's called chiles en nogada. Okay. And it is actually considered, a lot of people consider it the national dish of Mexico. And what it is, it's a dish that is only served between the end of August and the end of September, because September 15th is the Mexican Independence Day. Now, it has a rich history behind it because it was created to celebrate the winning of the insurgents in the independence fight from Mexico. So it was created by nuns in Mexico, and it's based on the ingredients that were available. And story goes, we don't know if this is completely historically accurate, but story goes that all of the women of the fighting soldiers were were brought to monasteries or where the nuns were, and the nuns would protect them and take care of them, either their betrothed or their wives or such, if they were single. So when the independence was won, the general came and said, I want you to create a dish that has the three colors of the Mexican flag in the standard, which is green, white, and red, and something that represents our independence so that we can celebrate. So the Mother Superior said, okay, we need to put something together. It's around fall time. In Mexico, in the southern part of Mexico, in the higher elevations, there is a fall. So they had nuts, they had pomegranates, they had apples and pears. So this dish has a sauce that is made with white nuts, normally walnuts that have been peeled, the brown part, with goat cheese and cream. And then the chili is toasted. And on the inside, you have dry fruits, you have nuts, you have plantains and peaches, apples, pears, all chopped up in in a mix. And the chili is filled with it. And what I did on the show was and then it's decorated with pomegranate seeds and parsley to give the green and the red. So what I did was I reduced the pomegranate juice into a molasses and I drizzled that over. So that was the dish. And I cannot say how I was scared. I did not want to do that dish because I said, they're going to think this is crazy. I mean, there's sweet, there's sour, there's spicy, there's creamy, there's smoky. There's way too many flavor profiles in this.
But more than anything, there was a story. That's what people love. Was that the sherry and pomegranate reduction?
Yes.
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 I was watching that video on social media as well. Unbelievable. And then you were a teacher for 25 years and also helped coach small businesses with social media, of course. So I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised at all. So, tell us everything. How did you fall into teaching? So tell us about the coaching, the teaching, the Reiki. Am I saying that right? The Reiki practice.
Yes, Reiki.
How does that all come together and connect with your love of cooking and just tell us everything. Tell us everything.
You know what? And that is a great question. Thank you for asking that. And it is all happened, I want to say, almost like in a magical way. And I think, so I started off and you were asking about theater. So in college, I was actually pursuing a degree in international relations because I spoke several languages. I went to a German school. I spoke Serbian, Spanish, English, and then I was in Switzerland for a year, so I spoke French. And I said, you know what? I got this in the bag. I'm going to be a translator for the UN. That's the dream. I'm going to go work for the UN. Well, things happened, and I wasn't able to complete my education at the University of the Americas. So I was in Puebla, Mexico, and I needed a job. And there was a job opening at this English school called the Anglo-American School that teaches English in the afternoons to children and adults. And it was for a secretarial position. And I went into the interview, and it was a British gentleman. And he goes, so you're a thespian. And I go, a what? A thespian. I said, I don't know what that is. Because my English was kind of, I'd been here until 7 and I didn't have a very extensive grasp of English. And he had to explain it to me. He said, you're a theater kid. And I said, oh yeah, I was in the theater at the university. He said, you would make an amazing teacher. I said, really? He said, you're not going to be a secretary. I'm going to give you the opportunity to have an education as a teacher and fully paid as long as you stay with us for a few years and work to develop curriculum based on, your experiences in the United States and the education you received. And I said, okay. So I went to school for 3 years, became a teacher, ESL teacher, English as a second language. And I didn't even know I wanted to be a teacher. But then I said, okay, you're never going to get me out of the classroom. I love to teach. So I taught in Mexico, and I was an English teacher in Mexico for children. And when I moved here 25 years ago, I transferred that knowledge into becoming a an English as a second language teacher for immigrants, for farm working children, for their parents, and to help children who have just arrived to the country to get that first experience of English and that basic knowledge of English.
Did you say you also studied German as well? Sprechen Sie Deutsch auch?
Ein bisschen, yeah.
Ein bisschen. So how many total languages do you speak?
5. Well, I've lost a lot of the German and the French because I don't have anybody to converse with, which is why I'm looking forward to Dukas. But
yeah. And you could call me talk German, so we'll get you.
I would love that.
We'll get you back up to speed for sure. So tell me a little bit about the Reiki.
So the Reiki. So I have rheumatoid arthritis, and it's a autoimmune disease that debilitates you. And someone said, you know what? Have you ever considered doing Reiki? And I said, I don't know what that is. And they explained it to me, and they said, you know what? It's your energy and how your energy is used. You know, you have the chakras. So I said, okay, well, let me try it out. So I took the first level. There's 3 levels. I took the first, and then I liked it. Took the second and the third, and you get attunements. It's almost like your graduation. So right before the pandemic started, I had opened up an office where I was going to practice Reiki and life coaching because I had also gone to school to become a life coach. I know there are so many different things. I love to learn. And then the pandemic hits and I wasn't able to do any practices, and I had to shut down the office. And I started just basically doing it for myself, for animals. And, it's one of the little tools in my tool bag. And Reiki actually talks about the chakras and how we can eat according to what we need. So for example, if you feel financially unstable, that's your root chakra, that's your bottom chakra. And the things that you have to eat in order to heal that chakra is, for example, potatoes, beets, all root earthy foods. And it's interesting because it helps when you eat with the season. It helps when you eat with your chakra as well.
So was the idea, Daniela, of becoming a chef also something that was always looming in the back of your mind? Was that an ultimate dream? Obviously, you grew up with beautiful food and experiences. So was it something that you thought about as well?
So when I was little, a lot of little girls, we played cook, right? We would cook with our dishes and such. In my head, I always thought, I have this big kitchen and I'm not just serving one person, I'm serving hundreds of people. And it was in the back of my head, and it was one of those dreams that you just shove in the back. And then my younger sister, she went to culinary school several years ago in Arizona. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, she's doing it. She doesn't work in the industry, but she has all the skills and she's amazing. And I thought, well, I'm too old to do this. Why would I? And it was something that would always pop up. And I think, I'm just too old. I was a mother. I had to raise a child. And then once I became an empty nester, I can't go and work in a busy kitchen. But then I realized that Escoffier had an online program, and I said, okay, should I do it? And it was about 1:00 in the morning when I applied for Escoffier. And I thought, no, they're not going to accept me. I'm too old. I keep telling myself that, but now I don't anymore. And it's been an amazing experience. I've learned so much. I can't wait to learn more. Every single time we start a new session, I'm like, okay, what's next?
I love it. You mentioned, Daniela, that competing on MasterChef inspired you to reset your life. Again, it sounds like, and pursue a new career. And so let's talk about that for a little bit. This was really interesting. First of all, congratulations for being on the show. That in itself is an amazing, huge accomplishment. And for those who don't know, our listeners, season 14 of MasterChef, I can't believe season 14. Wow. It's been such a smashing success. So season 14 of MasterChef brought together amateur cooks from 4 generations. I just love this. Millennials, baby boomers, Gen X, and Gen Z to prove to your earlier point that age does not matter in the kitchen. So can you walk us through what that experience was like, what it was like to audition, and how did it feel to be on camera, and the butterflies, and are you competitive by nature?
I really am not. I compete with myself. I'm
Okay.
very competitive with myself. And at one point, Joe Bastiani said, classical Gen X overachiever. Gen X, we compete with ourselves a lot. So that was interesting. That was an
That's a
interesting
good
dynamic
point.
to see.
That's a good point. That's a good point. So walk us through what was that audition like, and where did you have to fly somewhere and be really quiet about it, not tell anyone? Was it a
So
secret?
it was. So I actually applied for MasterChef season 13, which was United Tastes of America, where
Okay.
they did chefs from different regions of the United States. And I got pretty far through the process. And then they said, thank you, no, thank you. And then last year, around this time, around October, I get a call, hey, would you like to reapply? And I thought they were punking me. I'm like, are you, is this really happening? They go, no, 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 this is really,
That's so
MasterChef.
flattering, though. That's so
It
flattering, right? Wow. Yeah.
was, I was floored, and it was such an amazing experience. So the interview process started at home. They send you emails where they ask you to produce, a filet mignon, or, show us your elevated plating. And of course, like you said, chef, we are all home cooks. We're not professionally trained. No one has been in a kitchen and worked. This is all very rudimentary. So they say we need it a little more elevated, and they push you even during the interview process, which is where I started loving plating, because I hadn't realized that, yes, my plating was pretty, but it wasn't elevated. And they push, and they say, okay, now try this, and you have this much time to return the results. So finally, from what I understand, and they told us, there were close to 40,000 people that had applied, and they flew approximately 100 people out to LA. I'm close by, so I got a really schnazzy limo drive to LA, and that was an experience. Um,
40,000 applicants, 40,000. Wow.
that's what,
Wow.
and I'm not sure if that was what was being told to us. And
Yeah.
then we get to LA, and they eliminate it down to 40. And 40 people are the people that are on the show competing for the apron with our signature dishes, which in this case with
Yeah,
mine was
yeah.
the chile nogada. And you have 4 judges, and you have to get 3 yeses in order to get the apron. So I was very fortunate, and I'm so honored that I got all 4 judges, because I thought Joe was going to be the difficult one that would say no. And interesting fact, Joe, when he found out that I was Serbian, he in the show he goes, interesting,
I
but
saw that. I saw that. Yeah. Yeah.
because his background, I believe he's Slovenian. I believe his Bastianic. I can't remember it was Slovenia or Croatia, but they're all very close to each other. And so we started talking in Serbian, which was amazing,
Oh,
because I got to
wow.
talk to Aaron in Spanish, to Joe in Serbian. And of course, Christine Ha was one of my judges.
Yeah.
And she's the winner for those of you who don't know, she's the winner of season 3, and she's blind. And she won the competition. And when I
Yep.
saw her come out, I mean, I was completely overwhelmed, because she was the one that I told Rick, my fiance, that I said, if she can do it, I can do it.
I can do it.
I
Yeah.
can do it. And because I kept saying, no, I can't do this. I can't do this. So the 40 of us are there, and only 20 of us got an apron. And the 20 of us were divided into 4 teams. And of course, you have the boomers, and the boomers were, they were amazing. And then you have Gen X, and then we had millennials and Gen Zers. So it was an interesting dynamic to see how everyone responds to different challenges, especially, and they threw a lot of shade to the Gen Zers and millennials. You can't do anything without your phone. I thought they were extraordinary. They did an amazing job.
That's great. That's great. Are you allowed to talk about what Gordon Ramsay's really like?
I am.
You are?
That
Okay.
is one of the things that my NDA does not say I can't say. Gordon
Okay.
Ramsay is extraordinary.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Watching him cook is like watching an artist paint. Watching him, he has
Oh,
such finesse, and he's so, the energy. Talking about energy, I love seeing energy of people. The energy that he has is one of focus, of love, and respect. Truly, the
oh,
way he holds the spoon, there's so much love there. And to have tried his sweet potato mash was, I mean, I was I was a mess. I was crying.
you see this chef back here, Marco Pierre White, Gordon
Oh
Ramsay worked for
yes,
him.
yes,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
yes.
So,
He's one
so
of
I
his
always like to
mentors.
hear, and I've heard this before that anyone who's come in contact with Gordon, Chef Gordon, has just been phenomenal. And um, we watched this clip. Let me see. It was the chicken flavored ramen noodles.
Oh,
Uh, but the judges, they loved it, right? So walk me through that dish.
so spoiler alert! If anybody hasn't watched it, that episode was generation boxes. So each of us had a generational box.
Yeah, yeah.
If you think it, so the boomers, when they lifted it, there was Wonder Bread, there was canned spinach, there was Spam. You know, of course, it wasn't Spam. It was canned meat. They have different names on them, but all the foods of our generation. So when Gen X opened the box, we were shocked. We were like mortified. There was Gatorade and cheese puffs and instant cup of noodles. You remember when those came out? How exciting it was that we could just
Oh,
pour water into a cup and have lunch.
we can't tell anybody we tried that. Okay, you and I can't tell anybody.
No, no,
Okay,
we can't.
no.
So, and there were selected proteins. So the proteins that we had were a strip steak and a chicken breast and ground turkey. But there was a package of hot dogs as well. And I mean, just really there were wine coolers and things like that. So we had 45 minutes to make an elevated dish. What do you make with all of it? So even Chef Aron, he said, the dish is kind of quirky, kind of like you. And I said, well, thank you, Chef. That's a compliment, and I embraced the quirkiness and I put the hot dogs into a food processor with some, ginger, some lemongrass, and I fried up some shallots and I made a meatball with those and the turkey. And then I sauteed that with a little bit of, aromatics. I used some gochujang, and then and we didn't have much produce either. We had a limited pantry of produce. So I got a broccoli head and sauteed that broccoli, made some broccoli noodles from the stock. And then I made the broth. I started the broth right away. I created a broth that was infused with a lot of flavor, a lot of aromatics, and I just let it cook for 35 minutes. And I let it simmer, and I said, okay, this is going to be the thing. And poached an egg, and Bob's your uncle. I served Gordon Ramsay hot dogs and ramen, and he liked it.
How did Daniela, how did this experience, the whole experience on MasterChef inspire you? I'm going to use the reset term again, your
Mm-hmm.
life. Is this something you think about every day? And has it, I mean, you did it, right? You did it. You accomplished it. And um, how do you think about the rest of your life based on that experience?
That's a great
You
question. And
can
a
do
lot of
anything.
people,
You can do
yes,
anything, right?
a lot of people ask me, what was the reset button about? Why was that so important? And Chef, hopefully I won't cry. I promise I won't cry.
You
Promise
can
myself I
cry.
wouldn't cry.
You can cry.
So 2 years prior to applying for MasterChef, I had a very difficult health journey, very challenging, and which pretty much had me bedridden. And I thought, like I say when I leave, I thought that's it. I'm getting old. this is my life. I just have to accept it and make the best of it. I lived a great life. I traveled. I did great things, but it's time for me to settle down and just get old.
You had you, you
So,
had you had peace about what was happening in your life at
correct.
that time. Okay.
At that time, I was, because it was eventually going to happen, and doctors have told me, eventually it's going to happen where you are going to just have to, you know, settle down and not move around so much, because it does affect your mobility um, when it gets bad. So I've been very blessed, especially, eating plant-based now has helped so much. And I'm going to become the poster child advocate screamer on the soapbox. If you have, any type of inflammatory, I'm not a doctor, but inflammatory issues, plant-based is the way to go. And that helped me a lot also to do a reset. So MasterChef was the first reset, and then Escoffier was second reset, and moving forward. So it really is tied into just, it's like, okay, let's reboot the computer. It's running slow. Let's do it. And that's what happened to me with MasterChef. I realized that my mindset was really important as well. And every day going into competition was a reset. And Chef Ramsay would tell us, tomorrow's another day. Shake it off, go to bed, get some rest. And then when we'd walk in the kitchen, he would say, you know what, today's a new day. Whatever happened before, happened before. Let's move forward, and today's a new day. So I kept adopting that reset philosophy, and every day is a reset. No matter what happened yesterday, today is a reset. You just press that button when you wake up, like you do your
What I
alarm
love,
clock.
I just love the self-awareness, right? Like knowing that you need to reboot, knowing that it's running slow, you need to reboot. You mentioned that the plant-based journey is fascinating. We're going to dive into that a little bit more, but you converted away from, let's just say, protein and dairy heavy dishes um, of your childhood, of everyone's
Mm-hmm.
childhood, right, into healthier plant-based options, which didn't mean you had to move away from flavor and from texture and from color. Can you talk a little bit more about that transition, and then we're going to jump into your studies and what you're learning and what's next. But tell us a little bit about when you ripped that bandage off and knew that you needed to do something. People move to plant-based or different things in their life for different reasons, right? Advocacy for animals, health, preference. My family tends to be and it's really interesting. When you say that you're plant-based, a really good friend of mine, Chad Sarno, who's got a plant-based business in Austin, Texas, whenever I talk to him about it, he always just talks about eat more plants more often. Just eat more plants more often. My friend Farmer Lee Jones in Ohio, eat more plants more often. Eat your veggies, right? So there's no political agenda or anything like that. Just eat more plants more often.
Yeah.
Was it like that for you? Was it really hard to move away from the traditions of your childhood, the way you just knew how to cook?
You know what? And that is a great question, because a lot of people say, how hard was it? And it wasn't hard at all.
It wasn't hard at all.
It was
Okay.
it was amazing. So I came back from MasterChef, of course, having the most extraordinary pantry that you could ever imagine. Every single protein, every single dairy thing, you name it, they had it, chef. It
I
was it
imagine,
was
right?
it
Yeah.
was like heaven. It was
Yeah.
just like heaven. So we worked with a lot of heavy ingredients, and my eating while I was there wasn't the healthiest as well. So when I got back, I had a doctor's appointment, and my cholesterol was off the chart.
Hmm.
And I said, you know what? We can't do this. I need to do something about this. Well, you could do a lot of exercise. You can, reduce, meat, pork. And I said, well, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this right. So cold turkey, we eliminated all four-legged
Protein.
creatures from our diet. Then the two-legged creatures came. And then, we have, and we say we're more plant forward than vegan.
Yeah. Great term. Great term.
Because we have chickens. So, the chicken's going to lay the egg and we're going to eat the egg from the chicken. And, there are certain things that I still will have. And especially because traveling, it's difficult to find anything besides a salad.
Better than it used to be, but still difficult.
It's better.
Yeah.
It's better. It's better. And I think that the main thing that I love about transitioning into plant-based is that now I act like a mad scientist and I can, I stare at things in my oven, or I'm looking because I'm trying to replicate the flavors of, for example, a dish that we make that is it has feta cheese and cream. How can I make that using, cashews? So it's almost like a playing in the kitchen and building flavors. I have 3 cabinets full of spices. I'm learning so much about the spices around the world. There's one competitor actually that was on MasterChef with me, Jeet, and she is the person. I have never met someone who has such a wonderful grasp of seasonings. And I'll text her and I'll say, how can I use cardamom in this? Because cardamom is not part of my repertoire. Having grown up in a European and Mexican tradition. And she's helped me along with that, and, new vegetables. And actually the people from MasterChef have been helping me during this journey. I have Kimberly, who's a fellow Gen Xer, and she's amazing in the garden. And I'll ask her, hey, how can I use this vegetable? How can I use this? And she'll give me ideas. It really is exciting to get to play with your food in a new way, because it has opened up doors that I never thought were there.
No,
Things I never knew existed.
I just love it. I love it. I love how excited you get about it. I'm so relaxed here chatting with you. My legs are crossed. I'm kind of leaning back. I'm drinking my tea. This is so easy. I appreciate you, Daniela, so much.
Oh,
so now,
thank you.
Now you're a student with us at Escoffier. You're going to school asynchronously for the most part online. You're in our plant-based program. You started to talk a little bit about why Escoffier was the right choice for you because the online component, but feel free to share any other feedback about how going to school, how learning online has, let's say, supported your lifestyle, supported the things that you want to be able to do every single day without having to go to a physical building, let's say. Has that been a big part of your enjoyment in the program?
Yes. I have to say it has been one of the biggest blessings to be able to play in my kitchen like when I was a little girl. Go in the kitchen and think I'm going to serve 100 people. In my head, sometimes my kitchen is a Michelin star kitchen where I am serving 100 people. I get to play kitchen in my kitchen and learn in the process. It has been so, first of all, even my fiance will say it. He goes, I am so impressed at the support system there is from day one. I mean, you are not left alone. Hey, okay, sign up online here, your classes, there you go. The tutoring, the math, for example, which was very challenging for me. I'm not a math person, as everybody can probably tell. I'm more of a creative all over the place, and math was difficult. The support system that I had during that time with tutors, with the chef instructors. I love the checklist. Starting off and going, okay, I unpacked my groceries. Yes, I unpacked them. And labeling with the little tape, the little painter's tape. Painter's tape is now in my drawer. Everything in my fridge is labeled with painter's tape with a date. And if you're a culinary student or a chef,
What color is your painter's tape? Is it taupe?
It's blue.
It's blue.
Purple.
Good.
I need purple.
I like that you have some color. I have to challenge you here. I'll be the chef and you be the student for a minute, right?
Yes.
Are you using scissors to cut your tape, or are you tearing your tape?
I'm tearing my tape, chef.
You're going to start using scissors to to cut your
Yes,
tape.
chef.
Okay.
Yes, chef.
Look it up, Thomas Keller, Chef Thomas Keller at the French
Yes.
Laundry in California, and you'll find I hand out scissors with the tape dispensers to all the chefs and all the students. Use the scissors.
Thank
And
you,
you know
chef.
why? And you know why?
Why?
It's not because of my um desire to control the narrative. It's more
No, no.
about if we can if we can ask a student or a cook or a chef or an instructor to take the time to use scissors to work at 90 degrees, then we'll know that they'll do almost anything to be the best, to be the best. So it's that extra step to be better than just tearing it. It's
Thank you,
I
chef.
didn't invent it. I didn't invent it. I
Mm,
just love it. I just love 90-degree angles, right? So
I
anyway,
love
you'll tell
that.
me about it later. Use the
I
scissors.
love that. So I think I'm going to be making, you check out my social media because I probably will be making a post.
There you go. There you go. 90 degrees. Yeah, check out Thomas Keller and then you'll have some context around that. I've talked a lot about the people that you've interacted with from your childhood to being a teacher to being on MasterChef and some of the Kim and some of the others that you still communicate with. Would you say too that going to culinary school, for example, has also provided you with this sense of community that seems to be very, very important to you in your life?
Yes, chef. And that was one of the things that I thought was going to be a challenge, being online on a Zoom. But I have actually been very blessed. I have a small little community of two other women who are in the plant-based program with me. And we have this back and forth Marco Polo that we talk about, or we'll go on Zoom and we'll cook together. So we, in our little community of three, hey, you know what, my truffles, or my cake fell apart, or my this, happened, or my pie crust didn't work. Can you help me? So we're helping each other. But also we have the support of the chef. I was super, super nervous about baking. I am not a baker. And I am not a baker. And it's so boxed and almost precise. Well, not almost. It is very precise.
It's
And
a
like I
science.
said,
Yes, yes.
it's a
Yeah,
science.
yeah, yeah.
But and I'm a creative. But I have learned to love baking, and I've actually baked on my own outside of assignments. And I created a recipe the other day, and I said, "Babe, I'm a baker." And it's thanks to, Chef Stephanie has been wonderful. I mean, all the chefs that I've had, they are extraordinary, always, available for chatting. You can text them, you can email them, you can message them. And, the demos being online and it feels like the best of culinary school, but it adapts to my lifestyle, especially like, for example, if I have a tough day where I can't get out of bed and I can't function and I can't move, I can still be in class regardless and then do my labs later on. And I love putting the coat on and putting the apron on and my little hat. And
I
it
love
lights
that.
me up. It really does light me up.
I can tell. I can tell. Coming back to your, ad, you know, adopting or adapting to, baking. Um, you have a love for the kitchen. It is a little more linear. It's a little bit more precise than the creativity behind the stove. I get that. I'm the fourth generation son of a baker, and I went the
Mm-hmm.
creative route too. He was on one side of the stove, I was on the other. Um, but I will say that if you embrace this idea of cutting the tape with scissors, then you can embrace the idea of mise en place in the world of a baker, where you always have to work ahead. You always have to be thinking ahead. Rarely can you throw together a wedding cake or a Dobos tort or a Black Forest tort, um, just at a moment's notice. You have to think about it and prepare several components of your dish. Mention that you made something, showed it to your fiance, and then you said, I'm a baker. What was it that you made?
I made banana bread,
Banana
which
bread.
is
Who doesn't
probably
love
what,
banana bread, right?
and you know what? It wasn't that dense, almost moist type banana bread that I grew up with, which is delicious. It
Yeah.
was light and fluffy and airy and crummy. And I'm talking like a chef now.
I love it. I love it. Yeah.
But the interesting part was that what I've learned is the proportions and how I can just substitute. And now even further that it's plant-based. So, substituting the egg for, some flax meal or a flax egg or a chia egg or whatever it is. Like I said, it's like playing for me and doing that. And when I pulled that banana bread out, it was like I had painted the Mona Lisa. I was so proud of that.
I bet in the aroma but now you're finding your culinary and baking voice, right? So you're creating this cognitive narrative about what you're doing. So the idea that you're thinking about replacing ingredients in a recipe or as part of a technique is absolutely fabulous. Good. You're growing. You're growing as a culinarian. There are a lot of people, we've talked about you doing a lot of things later in life. Um, there's a lot of people out there on the fence about switching careers at a certain point in their life, right? They may say it's too late. I don't have the right resources, whatever it is. How did you combat those fears? And how do you continue to combat those fears as you move forward? Eventually you'll finish school and then you'll be faced with your next decision, whether it's, the Three Aprons Cafe or a chain of restaurants, whatever it is. Um, how do you combat those fears as you look at post graduation?
The fears will always be there. Am I just wasting my time, my money, my energy, and I'm not going to do anything with it? So one of the things that helps me combat it and that I share with a lot of people is the tape measure. So I have a tape measure that I have marked at my age, and I do it on the centimeter side. And, let's say if I were to live 100 centimeters, 100 years, I cut it right there. Where am I at right now? I'm at 53 and I started doing this at 51. And I can cut all of that off. All I have is this little piece, which is, 47 years left if I live to 100. But how many viable years do I have? Well, the average female has, approximately 70 years of viability. So that even cuts it to less. So what am I going to do with that little piece of amazing, crazy opportunity that I have left?
Oh my God,
that combats my fears.
It's brilliant. What a beautiful visual of just eliminating the noise to the left, to the right, to the north, to the south, and just focusing on where you are at this moment in your life, right?
Yes. And to focus and show up for this. How am I going to show up for each of these millimeters? And I have to show up for me.
Yes,
not
you
for
do.
Anybody else, but I have to show up for me. So how
Danielle,
am I going to do that?
stealing. I'm stealing all of that.
Absolutely.
I'm going to
Please do.
steal that because that's just beautiful. Just beautiful. I just noticed that we've been talking well over our time and it's just been so enjoyable, but I can't let you go just yet. The name of the podcast is The Ultimate Dish, and this has just been a joy. Um, so I can't let you leave until you tell us what, in your mind, is the ultimate dish. Now, this could be a dish, several courses. It could be a memory, a food memory, but it's 100% up to you. What's the ultimate dish in Daniela's world?
So the ultimate dish that I enjoy, that I wish I could have, would be my grandmother's stuffed cabbage rolls that she had made with cabbage that she had brined for several months and then would roll it and cook it for hours. That would be my ultimate dish.
Coming from a German background, stuffed cabbage rolls were a big thing in our family. How did your grandmother, did she steam them And then did she accompany them with any sort of a sauce or reduction of some sort?
So it would be made with smoked meat that my grandfather would smoke.
Yep.
And it was placed in like I said, it is sauerkraut cabbage, actually, the leaves that would be used.
Oh, gosh.
And then it was stuffed with a combination of smoked meat, ground meat, rice, very simple, very home. And then it had a base
into a casserole
into a big casserole and then in the oven for several hours.
I love it.
Slowly.
I love it.
And it would have the flavor of smoked paprika, smoked meat.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, my mouth is watering right
I love
now
it.
thinking
I love
about it.
We have not
and
had...
my sister actually makes it just like she did. I said, you got Baba's hands.
Oh my gosh.
And you are the only one able to make this the way she made it. So my younger sister, she's phenomenal.
That is an amazing ultimate dish, and it brings back a lot of memories. I was getting chills hearing you talk about it. Every once in a while, my mom would, throw a tomato sauce of some sort, like, underneath it just to change it up. But mostly it came out of the casserole in its own, liquid, and great, great memory. What a lovely chat, Daniela. Thank you so much. I wish you continued success in school. Please reach out whenever you can for help or otherwise, or just to tell me how it's going. And
thank you.
We do, like, this coming Sunday, in a few days, we will have graduation for Escoffier for both online and on-ground students. We do it right here in Boulder, Colorado, on the campus of Colorado University, in a beautiful, beautiful venue. So you will be here for graduation.
I will.
Next November.
July 1st, actually.
Well,
my graduation date.
You'll graduate July 1st, and then we'll have the ceremony just a couple of months later.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So it may be October, maybe November. It all depends on when the venue's available. But I look forward to walk across the stage.
Oh, I told Rick that touche blanc is going to stay on me for a week. You're going to see me walk around with it. I earned that, baby.
Yes, you did. You earned it.
Thank you, Chef Kirk. Thank you, Noelle.
Thank you so much.
I am so honored that you would ask me to be on your amazing podcast. You've made this woman's day. Thank you so much.
The honor's ours. Thank you, Daniela. We appreciate you. Thank you for listening to the Ultimate Dish Podcast, brought to you by Auguste Escoffier School of Culinary Arts. Visit escoffier.edu/podcast to find any materials mentioned during the podcast, including notes, links, and other resources. And if you can, please leave us a rating on Apple or Spotify and subscribe to support our show. This helps us reach more aspiring individuals ready to take the next step toward their dream careers. Thanks for listening.